Hello and welcome back to St. Thomas Aquinas for everyone. My name is Dave Palmer and thank you for journeying through the Summa with me. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am enjoying teaching it. And we just got to keep chugging along because the Summa is really big, and so if we don't keep on doing these and learning, we're going to fall behind. This is the fourth and final segment, final video on coming to know God. Can we know God? And just by way of review, before we go into the new lesson today, I just want to kind of recap what we've already learned about coming to know God. And yes, I do have my little cheat sheet here because even I don't remember everything that we learned because there's been a lot. Can we know God? Well, the short answer is yes. We can come to know God. He is pure act. That means He is very, very knowable. In fact, more knowable than anything else in the world because He is pure act with no potentiality, right? The problem, though, is that He is above our nature. God is supernatural, and so by our own nature, by our own power, we cannot come to know Him, and that means that we need help. We need divine assistance. We need His grace in order to come to know Him, which He is very willing to provide for us. We also learned that some people in heaven have a greater clarity or a greater knowledge, so to speak, of God that is based on charity, which is based on desire. Remember that? So the more we desire God, the better we are going to be able to come to know Him with greater clarity when and if we get to heaven, right? So pray for desire, okay? This is an exercise of the will. We pray that our will desire God earnestly. We also learned that we cannot fully comprehend God because if we comprehend God, then guess what? We are God. Okay, so let's move on to this lesson again, the grand finale, the final video on can we know God before we move into the next lesson. And Thomas is going to start off here by saying whether those who see the essence of God see all they see at the same time. Think about how interesting that is. And you might be surprised that Thomas is going to say yes to this question. But first of all, let me give you an example about how here below we come to know things. Okay, we come to know things little by little. Imagine or consider when you were learning the math tables or the periodic chart or whatever, the states and their capitals, as for this example. You learned one at a time, right? If I were to say, what's the capital of Texas? You'd say Austin. What's the capital of California? Sacramento. What's the capital of Florida? Tallahassee. But you learn those one at a time. They didn't come all at the same time, and quite frankly, you can't even think about all three of those at the same time. You go from one to the next. Okay, that's part of our nature. We learn and we think discursively, going from one thing to the next. But Thomas is going to say that it's different when we get to heaven. He says, what is seen in the Word, which is a description of heaven, is seen not successively but at the same time, in proof whereof we ourselves cannot know many things all at once, which is what I was just explaining with the states, forasmuch as understand many things by means of many ideas. But our intellect cannot be actually informed by many diverse ideas at the same time. Okay, that's what I was just telling you. As I talk about those capitals of the states, I had to do them one at a time, right? I can't just throw them all at you at the same time. This is the way we come to know things, so as to understand by them, as one body cannot bear different shapes simultaneously. Okay, and that's kind of interesting. Hence, when many things can be understood by one idea, they are understood at the same time as the parts of a whole are understood successively and not all at the same time. Now, when we get into angelic nature later on in the Summa, probably a couple weeks from now, you're going to learn that angels come to know things in a very different way. Their epistemology is different than the way we come to know things, right? And it may not even be accurate to say they come to know things, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. All right, so to show this example here, think of a house, okay? You got a house in your mind, okay? And you're probably right now, when thinking about this house, you're thinking of the front door and the porch and the windows and the shutters and the roof, right? Because that's part of a house. Maybe it looks something like this. This is kind of an example, as far as the best that we can, understand of how it'll be in heaven, is that we'll be able to think of many things all at the same time, which means that our intellects will become angelic in a sense. We will not become angels, because angels are a whole different species from us, but our minds will improve, our intellects will improve, and they'll become somewhat angelic. Okay, can anyone in this life see the essence of God? Remember, our nature in the way that we operate down here below is different here than it will be when we get to heaven. And I'll tell you something, at the very, very end of the Summa, we're talking a long time from now as far as this study goes, we're going to learn about what it's like to be in heaven. It's one of my favorite parts of the Summa. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Okay, Thomas says, God cannot be seen in his essence by a mere human being. Okay, that's what you and I are, mere human beings. But compared to God, we're very mere, right? Except he be separated from this mortal life. All right, the reason is because the mode of knowledge follows the mode of the nature of the knower. Isn't that just so poetic? Isn't that awesome? But our soul, as long as we live in this life, has its being in corporeal matter. Okay, we have bodies. That's why we're different than angels. Okay, angels don't have bodies. Okay, God doesn't have a body. We are different. We're in a body. We are a soul that, any soul is always going to be attached to some kind of body, right? As we've already learned. Hence, naturally, it knows only what has a form in matter, or what can be known by such a form. Okay, we come to know things like this pen because it has form and it has matter, right? And that's why we can know it. We can't really know an angel because it doesn't have matter. Okay, we can only make them into our, we put little wings on them and we little cherubs, but that's not really what they look like, right? So we have to kind of bring them down to our level, right? Now it is evident that the divine essence cannot be known through the nature of material beings because the divine essence has no matter, it has no form, it has no material aspect to it, okay? Does this make sense? Are you starting to kind of grasp this a little bit? I hope so, because I think this is just fascinating, all right? So let's move on. The last thing we're going to learn in this lesson is the name of God, whether the name He Who is the most proper name for God. Now remember when Moses was on top of the mountain and God appeared to him in the burning bush, Moses asked God, well, what's your name, right? Because if I'm going to go back to Egypt and try to, free the Israelites, I need to know who you are. And God said, I am who am. Have you ever thought about why God called himself that? Well, you are about to find out, okay? Because here's what it is. Now, this is kind of deep, but it also is somewhat review. I am signifies simple existence, which equals essence. Do you remember that when we learned about one of the attributes of God is this simplicity? Essence equals existence, which equals nature, which equals his intelligence, which equals his will, which equals his suppositum, okay? It's all the same in God, and that's why he's so simple, okay? Little by little, this is going to start making more sense, and it's going to make a big difference in your life. All right, it's also universal and absolute. It contains existence itself. I am, okay? I am existence, God could have said, but even that would limit him, all right? He's more than existence. Also, it signifies present existence, and this, above all, properly applies to God, whose existence knows not past or future. All right, now this is going to get complicated later on in the Summa when Jesus comes into the scene, right? Because Jesus came in at a particular time, all right? All of a sudden, God is going to have matter. He's going to have a body. He's going to have a lot of things that we're talking about now that he doesn't have, and that's why the incarnation was such an incredible event in human history, the most incredible thing that's ever happened in the world, right? Okay, so I hope this all makes sense. This wraps up. It's the grand finale for Can We Know God? And of course, the one-word answer is yes. And that's why we should live every moment of our life asking ourselves, how can I come to know God? How can I use the experience of my everyday life? How can I use the created world to come to know God? That's what the Summa is about. Okay, and that's why it's so exciting. All right, well, thank you so much for watching, and I'm curious, have you watched all these videos? If you've watched every video so far, and maybe you're just hanging on with bated breath for the next one to come out, comment below and let me know if you're keeping track. I'd love to know how many people have watched every one so far. Okay, just a quick little comment below. Make sure you like it. And keep watching, because it only gets better as we move through the Summa. Now that we've finished with Can We Know God, the next thing we're going to learn is, what does God do? All right, what does God do? And this is going to be really interesting. All right, thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying this. Comment and like, and thank you for journeying through the Summa with me. I'm Dave Palmer, and this is St. Thomas Aquinas for everyone.